Hey, welcome to the October almost Halloween edition of 3Squares. We are so glad you are with us and joined us again. Never forget you can reach out to us via email at 3Squares, number 3Squares at gmail.com, right? So 3squaresmail at gmail.com. We are thrilled you are here, and we've got a terrific guest. Our co-host first, Susan Schwally and Kevin Ryan.
There, Susan Schwally, 25 plus years working with CPG clients to bring insights about the American consumer and how they eat and ultimately help them move the business forward. So I'll pass it off to you, Kevin.
Kevin Ryan, Malachite Strategy and Research, helping CPG, food service, and ingredient companies at the front end of innovation and strategy.
And Kevin, you have a guest who's going to have to explain the golden ice cream cone
for those watching. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I thought it was a Christmas tree at first. I thought, man, he's really ahead of the game. He's got it up before Halloween.
So. Well, some people like that. But it is, as we know, it is. Yeah. No. Well, I'm excited to introduce Chris Moe, and I'll let him, introduce himself. But Chris is the CEO and co-founder of Cartograph, which is, I'll let Chris describe what Cartograph is, but super excited to have him here. So Chris, if you wouldn't mind giving us a little bit of you and tell us about the golden ice cream cone.
Okay, awesome. Well, first off, great to be here. Thanks for having me. Like Kevin said, I'm Chris Moe. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Cartograph. We're an Amazon agency. So we focus on the Amazon channel, and we work with about 100 different brands across CPG. We really focus in food and beverage. So we work with a lot of brands in the better for you emerging segment. Some brands you might know, like Olipop. Nice product placement right there for those on camera. And then we also work with some brands like Justin's Nut Butters and Rayo's on the golden chain here.
Ooh.
And then a number of different brands over the last 6 years. So we manage around 350 to 400 million in GMV on the platform annually, spend about 50 million in ads. In addition to food and bev, we do a lot of work in supplements, beauty, pet, and baby, but really focused in better for you, consumer, challenger brands. And so I like to say the categories are different, but really they're cousins. They tend to be in the same grocery stores. They tend to actually blend trends across a lot of the categories.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. And that's why, Chris and I were chatting not that long ago. And as we were talking about the move toward e-commerce, which I know sounds like, that's been going on for a long time, but the continual move toward e-commerce for consumer packaged goods, just like, you have small challenger brands doing it, but also larger consumer packaged goods companies doing it too. So I thought it would be a really good topic for, all of our listeners to, how do you get into that? How do you do that? And I think Chris and Cartograph are a great example of that. So, yeah.
Excellent.
So,
but before you get to questions, we didn't get the story of the golden ice cream cone.
Tell us about that.
By the way, nice job representing with the logos and the cans and everything. You're spot on brand. Yeah, nice, very nice.
Thank you. And yeah, kind of conflicting messages here. We have the bear trap with cookies, and then the golden ice cream cone. So the golden ice cream cone actually predates my work in food and bev. I was living in New York City as a McKinsey consultant, and just picked it up off the street. One man's trash on the curb. It could have been somebody's most prized possession that they turned away from for 30 seconds. And I walked up, picked it up, and took it home. It's now with me here in Austin, Texas. But it gets a lot of love here.
You can't leave something on the street in New York and expect that someone's just not going to take it, pick it up.
No, that's right.
Not if I'm nearby.
Right.
There you go.
Awesome. Well, I'll kick it off. A question, and I think this is probably a question you probably get a lot, which is, well, number one, how do you use, trends and search data and all that kind of stuff when you're talking to clients, or if you're talking to, those that are listening in big CPG? How do you use that type of data, when you're trying to, get a product to pop on Amazon? Tell us about that. I mean, as much as you can in a short amount of time.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'd say, first off, Amazon is a really interesting data source because it is not quite, it's not quite what people are talking about. It's not even quite what people are shopping for or looking at. It's what people are typing into the search bar. So the trends you see on Amazon are actually they're conscious trends. They're not slow moving, subconscious kind of like cultural movement stuff. It's like people see things and they start typing it into the bar. And so the big trend that we actually really built our business around was the keto diet. The keto movement in 18 and 19 was massive. And so brands that we work with, Fourth and Heart, Ghee, Justin's, Lily's Chocolates, Country Archer Beef Jerky, all of these styled themselves as keto brands. And we actually told Birch Benders, one of our first clients, you guys, they had their gluten-free pancakes and so forth. We told them, you got to make a keto product. At that point, we weren't super data driven, but we knew the movement was happening. And so interestingly, Amazon gives some cool data on search volume and search frequency rank. And so one of the ways that we look at it is we pull probably like the top 50 terms or so that we think are important to food, bev, and supplements on a weekly basis, and we chart those. And so it's interesting to see week over week, but what I think is actually the most important is to look at year over year seasonal. Because what we did is, I remember January of 2020, I looked at the shape of the spike of keto because everyone does their New Year's resolution diets. And I said, John, keto is over. It spiked. It's still massive, but like it is less. And like that is a dying trend. And no other signal really told you that, right? The volumes were still up, but the amplitude of the New Year's resolution spike was a big one. And so you can kind of apply some of that logic too right now. It's interesting kind of where trends come from and who creates them. Like I think one of the funniest trends right now is magnesium glycinate, if you guys are familiar.
Huge.
Sleep supplement, massive. And it started spiking probably about a year ago. And we were loosely familiar with it. It's like, it's been around forever. And it was because a bunch of TikTokers found a really effective way to talk about it that moved people. And it is sustained over a year. I thought 3 months max, and easy to be wrong. And then on the other side, there's trends like protein. And Kevin, you've done some great writing about the protein trend and the proteinification. And what I have found, so protein, interestingly, has had a massive run from 21 to 23. Before people were talking about it, all the protein powder companies are way up, the search volume for protein. And I've been looking at search trend for 24 because people are now saying like, oh, it's going to happen. It's going to have its moment. And it's not a no, but it's also not quite a yes. We're at basically the end of eating healthy season, where people start to give up on diets. It's getting close to holiday, like confection season is in this week actually. And I think the big changes are the important points, right? When New Year's resolutions hit and you need your dietary term to spike, when healthy goes out of season, it's supposed to decline. And so if we were to see a improvement in protein, we would see a muted decline happening right now. It is about the same as last year.
Yeah.
How to use this information to forecast if it's fad or if it's here to stay?
Yeah, it's
$1 million business, by the way.
Big question. Yeah, fad or here to stay. I think even just looking at the period over period stuff helps to tell that. Like that, if you look at creatine, for example, another one that's been on a massive run. If it's sustained over time, I think that tends to be a good signal. What What I will say is most things go in and out of style, though. Even the stuff that we consider to be like totally normal. One of the weirdest trends that I just still can't wrap my head around is that in the last 12 months, coffee declined. And I have not heard of any explanation why, except my guess is perhaps GLP drugs. Coffee being like both an appetite suppressant and GLP drugs having an impact on that too.
Actually worked on this. I'm not going to go too far down a rabbit hole, but in my prior life, I worked on this. So very quickly, coffee has been declining for a little bit. And part of it is climate change. Things were a lot warmer. So that threw off. Now there's cold brew for sure. But we were also seeing other sources of caffeine that tended to be colder, like all those caffeinated drinks. And we were even seeing for the first time carbonated soft drinks were upticking, particularly in the South in these warm climates. At the same time, your Starbucks was now $7.50 for a latte. Don't get me started, but you could go out and buy a Coke. So there were a lot of different variables that were putting pressure on coffee. By the way, part of the reason I'm talking so fast and I'm excited right now is because I love it when multiple data sets all point to the same thing, and I love macro trends. So now back to the regular programming.
I thought maybe it was the fact that you had too much coffee. That might have been a contributor.
But you're
to it.
right, though. I mean, look at Dr. Pepper just bought Ghost. So, I mean, you see that energy spike.
Drinks.
Yeah, energy drinks. That
People
kind of
are
makes
getting
sense.
they're getting their caffeine and their energy in many, many different ways, and they're making financial choices, and the weather is, it's all up for grabs.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So Chris, historically, some legacy food and beverage companies particularly have been a little bit slower to adopt e-commerce compared to some of the other categories. So how do you use consumer search behavior to predict, or rather to overcome that initial inertia, right, and capitalize on the growing online trend? How do you get companies that simply, I don't know how, I don't know why, we're comfortable where we are. How do you get them to move off the dime?
Yeah, so I think you can split companies into two big buckets. The obvious one is kind of the incumbents versus the emerging, and the emerging usually are really open to it. But actually a more perhaps fair split is the companies for whom e-com is margin dilutive versus the companies for whom it could be margin expanding or at least sustaining. And so I think that's actually been a big driver of a lot of big CPG, is that net of shipping costs, it's very hard to contribute more than 30 points on Amazon. And we all know that the really big CPG companies do a lot more than that. And so the complexity that you add with it. But I think an interesting thing that I think energy drinks actually led was they started to think about Amazon as a marketing channel, not a sales channel. And so if you look on Amazon, Celsius is one of the best selling items on Amazon, period. And I think, I don't know if it was them or Monster that pioneered it, but they treat it purely as a marketing channel because they said, this is where the customers want to be. This is where they're shopping. Presence is important. Like, put just volumes aside, there's like share of voice and brand stuff that you can measure on here. And what they said is, we're going to manage this to zero. We're not going to manage this to contribution. And so you can actually kind of do the back of the napkin math on like, how could I be getting shipped, a big case for 10, 15 bucks? And the answer is they're not making money, but for them, the exposure and the access to important customers has actually, and it's a really funny competitive dynamic because basically everyone else had to follow, or otherwise they were getting totally wiped out share-wise.
Interesting. So is that enough of a disincentive to chase some companies out of that market? I mean, if I'm not making any money and I'm, let's go with incumbents, right? If I can't make any money and I'm an incumbent, why?
Yeah. So, I mean, there are categories that don't sell on Amazon. Like you don't see conventional soda on Amazon. The economics just don't work. That like the cost per ounce just simply doesn't work. But more and more brands are finding they're finding ways to sell on Amazon, whether it be because they do sell on things like Amazon Fresh, or if they can in like a Whole Foods, or other types of non-traditional e-commerce. And you can also create custom kits that fit better on Amazon. You can do things like limited time offer, special seasonal or collaborations that are higher priced that people will pay for in kind of like a gifting, brand engagement kind of way. And then of course, for a lot of categories, Amazon is a good profit center, especially if you're a little bit of a higher margin product. That is, so like powders do really, like supplements do extremely well on Amazon. Amazon, I think in supplements is known as the most important channel. Something like over a third of all supplement sales are on the channel. And so for that, Amazon can be a big driver. Just a little bit harder for some of the big classic food and bev categories.
Do you
Okay,
think
so-
that, I just
go
had
ahead.
never thought about this before, but your mention of powders, the rising popularity of dehydrated powders, rehydrate your almond milk, or condiments that are powdered and all this kind of stuff, is the tail wagging the dog in the sense of, hey, let's get people interested in these dehydrated things because they're better, higher margin to sell on Amazon? I don't know, because you see they're more popular now.
Oh, big time. I can't tell you how many beverage founders have said, oh yeah, we're going to launch a stick pack.
Yeah.
Because the margin is going to be so good. I mean,
Who wants to ship water, right?
Right.
I mean,
Right.
Exactly.
Right. And
Yeah.
there is, and like the like you said, the tail wagging the dog, there is massive eco impact, right? Of not
Right.
shipping water and like
Yeah.
savings on transport and stuff like that. It is impractical in a lot of
Yeah.
ways to do so, but
Right.
yeah, a lot of people saw the economics and they're like, holy crap, liquid
Yeah.
IV makes so much money,
Yeah.
whereas all these other beverage companies managed to zero.
Yeah. Interesting. Go ahead, Susan. I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. You said something that caught my ear. A third of supplements are sold on Amazon. So if I'm a supplement manufacturer, how in the world do I stand out or break through in that environment? Like if you're going to advise me how to put my brand on Amazon and fight through that, what is the strategy there to get customers to be loyal to me and pay attention to me and buy me?
So it's not easy. It's competitive. Supplements is different than food and beverage. Food and beverage, there are not that many common English words that describe granular descriptions of food and beverage.
Hmm.
People don't walk around and say, "Oh yeah, I would like a probiotic soda," or like, "Give me that low sugar beverage option with a little bit of fruit," right? Like, and we know this because they don't type it into the search. Right. But yeah, right. Oh, maybe
Right.
it's you. But supplements, people do say that. That's why magnesium glycinate spikes. And so the way to play the game on supplements is you need to really lean in on which search terms you stand for.
Hmm.
And so some of the really advanced manufacturers, they will go as far as to make same product, different label for different search terms and definitions. There's this one company that I love. They make like basically digestive enzymes. They have like 6 different versions for like if it's cramps, if it's bloating, if it's digestion, and it's the same product. And they actually print a different label because you're optimizing for that search. So that's a big component of it. You have to be reasonably aggressive on Amazon's ads, which basically gets you share of search and share of free traffic. And then you want to build a good subscription base, which is huge in consumables.
wow.
Yeah. Do you see food or bev ever going to that point? I mean, to your point, that's not the way that, consumers think now, but do you see that ever changing in the future, that consumers might get to that point as, I don't know, as search changes or people know what to add? I don't know. Do you ever see that kind of crossing, or do you think it's always going to be different?
Well, like 5 years ago, I used to say that like people shop for food and beverage visually. You go to a shelf and you see it all, versus like other categories you shop like verbally, like semantically.
Right.
And so probably the most extreme example of this is apparel. Apparel, besides basics, and Amazon has built a huge business around basics and fast fashion and stuff like that, but you cannot sell high priced apparel on Amazon. just doesn't work because no one knows how to say a kind of nicer shirt or like something that just like feels or fits me better, right? And so the interesting thing about food and beverage is like we basically only work with high priced products, right? That are differentiated in some way. And they find a way. There are things like the word keto is a more expensive, specific way to describe food and beverage. And so as much as things like that are able to emerge, as much as there's, the proteinification of products, but we can describe other functional ingredients that will drive good, more sales. But one thing that I like to share is that there are like way more searches of Olipop and Poppy, like factor of 10 more than the word soda on Amazon. And so it's actually like in food and beverage brand leads versus product descriptor.
So one last question before we jump over to the quiz. We get the conversation about shipping water I thought was interesting. So when you think about all the logistical challenges, fresh, frozen, large cube, heavy products, how do you suggest brands optimize that packaging and then their fulfillment strategies, looking at the various e-commerce platforms and the different capabilities of each platform?
It's a big question. I think you have to really just build something custom for the channel is ultimately where everyone goes to. Like you shrink it, you optimize the cube. You sometimes will even look at Amazon shipping costs and like find, okay, what's the optimal size and cube for it. When you get into temp controlled, you actually have to drop ship it all for Amazon. And so for that, you really have to optimize. Amazon's actually now starting to, they always did this in kind in dropship, which is you need to be spread across the US in order to have lower cost shipping, but they're actually in like a indirect way making you pay for it now on their conventional supply chain where they're having like placement fees. There's this big hubbub earlier this year about Amazon placement fees. And they're basically saying, it's more expensive if we have to go from East Coast to West Coast.
Sure.
And so if we can get you to split it up a little bit. And so this was what temp controllers always had to do. We always said like minimum 3 to 6 nodes because you want it to be 2-day ground as much as possible anytime an order comes in. And like one next day error is going to wipe out all your margin. And so I think that's a lot of what you have to think about in terms of how to win on the channel is really thinking of like, okay, how can I set up my network in such a way that like reduces the last mile, if that makes sense, keeps it short.
Omaha, baby. The world should all revolve around Omaha. I think that's the answer. All right, with that, we're going to transition. Kansas City could be good too, but I just always remember Peyton Manning at the line of scrimmage hollering out Omaha. That was his trigger for going to an audible, right? And it's actually his production company is called Omaha Productions, so it's taken on kind of its own life. So, all right, we're going to transition to the quiz. So, Kevin, stump us once again.
Okay, well, we are heading into baking season. So I thought it would be interesting to talk about, I think we talked about in the past, I've had a quiz just about like on, like pumpkin pie or something like that at this time of year. But I'm interested actually in consumer packaged good baking because I don't think we've talked about it enough in the quiz sense. So all of these questions are about iconic consumer packaged good baking products. So I thought that'd be kind of interesting. So the first question,
Otis Spunkmeyer, that's what we're talking about. And
something like that. Yeah,
Otis Spunkmeyer.
Otis Spunkmeyer's not in here. Betty Crocker.
Look at where he came from.
Yes.
Okay.
I did,
My bad. Sorry.
Okay. First question. The classic cooking spray Pam has that name for what reason? Why is it called Pam? Is it A, an acronym that stands for Product of American Margarine, because the invention was an offshoot of the burgeoning margarine industry in the 1960s? Was it B, named in honor of Pamela Turner, the wife of one of the product developers who was instrumental in testing the spray's effectiveness? Was it C, an acronym for Product of Arthur Meyerhoff, one of the developers of the original spray? Or was it D, an acronym meaning Pan Application Method, the original technical designation for the product?
I'm going Pamela
Tempted with
Turner.
I was tempted with Meyerhoff, but I'm going to go with D because I think it just sounds very
Pan
practical.
application method.
Pan
All
application.
right.
Yeah, I'm going to go with that. Chris,
Chris?
are you with us, Chris?
Yeah, I'll go with A.
Okay.
I like the
Product of
margarine
American
movement.
margarine.
Yeah.
Okay. Susan?
She went
Pamela
with
Turner.
Turner. Yeah.
Yeah.
You went with Turner. You all missed it. It was product of
Meyerhoff?
Arthur Meyerhoff.
Oh
Yeah.
man.
He was an
should've gone-
advertising exec, and along with Leon Rubin, they started the product in 1959. So yes, that's what it's very boring where the name comes from.
We haven't had a product named after me, so I'm in the wrong era apparently.
Oh, there you go.
Oh, there
Yeah.
you go. Yeah.
My
See, you
answer
need to do that.
for every other question is going to be Otis Spunkmeyer. So
Okay.
let's just go.
Okay. All right. 2. All the following statements are true about fruitcake, except one. Which one of these is not true? So spot the one that's false. A, in 1969, when Apollo 11 went to the moon, fruitcake came along on the ride. B, in 2011, Kate Middleton and Prince William's wedding cake was fruitcake. C, British Airways strictly forbids that fruitcake be packed in carry-on luggage because of its density and similarity to explosives in X-ray scans. D, the largest fruitcake makers in the U.S. are all in Georgia.
Oh wow, this is a good one.
For the fake one, that's what we have to.
Which one's fake? There's only one of these is not true.
TSA.
TSA. Okay, British
Yeah.
Airways.
Yeah.
Susan or Chris?
What's the first one again?
Apollo 11. Did fruitcake go to the moon?
I'm
It's
going
indestructible.
I'm going wedding cake.
Okay, Prince William and Kate
I'm
Middleton.
going to go
Okay.
NASA.
You're going to go NASA. Charlie is correct. Only the British Airways one. That is not true. You can take fruitcake apparently on a carry-on.
Why
So
you
all
would
the
is
others
another question.
are true. However, I will say that pineapple fruitcake did go to the moon, but it also came back. No one ate it. Very clear.
Could eat it.
And yes,
I think there's
Kate
only one
Middleton-
fruitcake. It just keeps
Kate-
getting circulated. Right?
Kate
It might
Middleton
be.
and Prince William's wedding cake
I knew
was a
that.
fruitcake as a nod
man.
toward Princess Diana, who
That's
also
just-
had
Yes.
fruitcake. Yes.
Oh, that's gross.
You know, I knew that, right?
Yes, I knew you knew that one. Yeah, you are
Our
a proud
royal aficionado.
royal. Yes.
Yeah.
Number 3, Arm & Hammer is famous for baking soda. Why is the brand called Arm & Hammer? Is it A, named after its founder, Armand Hammer, the petroleum magnate and great-grandfather of the actor Arnie Hammer? Is it B, named after Vulcan Spice Mills, another company the founder owned, and the Arm & Hammer logo belonged to to Vulcan, the god of metalworking? Is it C, it comes from the company's original slogan for its cleaning products, "Arm yourself with strength," represented with an arm and a hammer? Or is it D, it represents the merger of the original 2 parent companies, Armstead Soaps and Hammer Chemical?
I'm going to go with the Vulcan thing. Live long and prosper.
Okay, Vulcan. Susan or Chris?
I'm going to go. I always thought it was the founder. I'm going
Okay.
to go with A.
A, Arm & Hammer. Okay. Chris?
What was the cleaning products one?
Yeah, so arm yourself with strength as their slogan.
No, I'm gonna go with the merger.
Okay, the merger.
The
All right.
merger.
All right, Charlie did it again. Charlie got it. It's the Vulcan Spice Mills. It is
Live
named
long
after the
and
Vulcan
prosper.
Spice Mill.
There you
However, very interesting. Armand Hammer, Armond Hammer, the great grandfather of Arnie Hammer, he was always asked, "Do you own Arm & Hammer?" because of the similarities. He hated that so much that he tried to buy the company. And
didn't
they
own
wouldn't
it.
allow him to buy it, so he bought his way onto the board, and he was on the board until he died. Yeah, it was just a coincidence. But yeah, he did have a
Oh.
connection.
That's crazy.
Number
Fell for
4,
it.
Jiffy Corn Mix is now a staple for the holiday season. What was
Yes.
the original marketing slogan of Jiffy Corn Mix in 1930?
Hmm.
Was it A, quick as a whistle, golden as the sun? B, so easy, even a man can do it? C, cornbread so good, you'll keep it a secret? Or D, whip up warmth in a jiffy?
And Son.
Ooh.
'Cause
You
the
know
sun.
what? I don't think it's so easy a man can do it.
Oh yeah, we have that corn mix in our. We use that all
which
the time.
which one do you want? Which one do you want, Susan?
I'm going Golden Sun, the first one. is
Golden
the-
Sun. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm
Charlie
gonna go
or
with the
Chris?
last. I'm going with the last one.
I'm
Whip
the
up warmth in a
last
jiffy?
one in a jiffy.
Yeah, whip up warmth in a jiffy. Yeah.
Okay. It is so easy, even a man can do it.
Oh man,
Yeah, it was originally, and it was developed
So
by
sexist.
a woman who actually left her husband and son at home, and he tried making cornbread, and he couldn't do it, and so she created the mix. That was her slogan. And by the way, Jiffy is an actual measurement of time. It is technically defined as 1/100th of a second, which that might be a little faster than it probably mix comes together. But
I don't think that's
all right, last one. I believe Charlie is ahead. Before we got the famous block letter logo for Hershey's chocolate, what was the original logo for the brand? What did it look like? Was it A, an American eagle holding a chocolate bar in its talons because Milton Hershey wanted to show his patriotism right coming up into World War I because he had German heritage? Was it B, a ruffled grouse standing on the back of a dairy cow because a ruffled grouse is Pennsylvania state bird and the company was known for milk chocolate? Was it C, Milton Hershey drinking a glass of milk because Hershey wanted to emphasize the quality of his milk, which was a problem in the era about bad milk? Or was it D, a baby inside of a cacao pod holding a chocolate bar, showing the purity of his cocoa coming from nature and not adulterated?
That one's just sick. That last one. I'm sorry. A baby inside a cacao pod? That's just wrong. Yeah.
You know that's what it's
I'm gonna
gonna
go.
be.
I'm gonna go with Milton Hershey and the eagle.
Milton Hershey and an eagle. Okay.
That's what I was
Susan?
going to take.
Well, you can take it.
I don't think it's the grouse. The baby thing's weird.
Which might mean
was the other
might mean
one?
it's right.
The eagle was the first, right?
Eagle,
Yeah.
ruffled grouse on a cow, him drinking a glass of milk, or the baby
Drinking milk.
drinking milk.
I'm going eagle.
Eagle. You're all incorrect. It is a baby inside
No
of a
way!
cow pod. I
That
would
is
ask you
so
if I could put it
wrong.
in, I would show you right now, but I would just look up the original. It was there until 1968.
Oh,
it
you
is
gotta be
a
kidding me.
weirdest picture of a tiny baby inside holding a little tiny bar of chocolate. It is the weirdest logo. So important that they switched over. Anyway, Charlie, I believe that you
Too
you
good.
got
Nobody.
that one.
Yeah. Anyway,
I
that's
think I
just
got
that's
zero.
just disgusting. I'm going to be haunted by that in my sleep.
This is a hard quiz.
Well, then don't look it up because
I will not look
it's
it up.
kind
I
of
will
weird.
be too disturbed by it. Okay. Hey, go ahead.
As creepy as you think. Okay,
It's
sorry.
kind of
No,
creepy.
yeah, no, it's
kind of
creepy.
creepy.
It's creepy. It's creepy. Putting a baby in, yeah, it's just creepy. We'll just leave it at that. So you won't find that on any of the candy bars you're going to pick up on Halloween. So enjoy your Hershey's chocolate with no fear that you'll find a baby inside a coffee bean. Thank you again for joining us for another edition of 3Squares. We will be back in November. And until then, if you want to reach out, you can do so. 3squaresmail@gmail.com. 3squaresmail@gmail.com. Chris, thank you for joining us. Susan, Kevin, always a pleasure. Have a great
Chris.
weekend, everybody. See you.
All right.
Bye.
Thank you. Thanks. Bye.